this is probably the number one asked question I get. How long do the blades last? Hi, good morning and welcome back to the channel. We're gonna cut a fence post out of this, basically a mailbox post out of this piece of red oak. Red oak's not the best, but we're gonna put it in fast 2K, so I don't expect to have any problems with it. It'll probably last as long as we do. Anyway, we're going to be using the Frontier OS18, and this sawmill we've had now probably a little over. We've been using it for a little over 2 months now. So I've had a lot of questions about it, and I didn't really want to answer a lot of things until I had a few logs through it. We're probably on our, this will probably be, I'm guessing somewhere between probably our 30th log, somewhere in there. I feel like I got enough understanding about the sawmill to actually talk about it now. I guess the question, probably the elephant in the room, is if I knew back when we first got this sawmill what I know today, would I buy this sawmill today? And the answer is yes. It's been it's done everything that it's said it's going to do. Now you have to buy the correct sawmill. This sawmill will only cut an 18-inch around log, and the way it's set up currently, it'll just barely cut an 8-foot long board. And that is, it's actually pretty difficult to cut an 8-foot long board. You have to place the log exactly right. It can be done, but it's a little bit difficult. What we've done is we did, make the mistake of getting it with just the base sawmill and not the extra tracks. I will tell you, go ahead, the tracks for this sawmill are not that expensive. Go ahead and buy the track extension and the legs from the get-go, because you'll save, it'll all come on one shipment and you will save on shipping, and that's a big deal. So you start shipping these metal tracks individually like we did, and yeah, it gets a little bit more expensive than it needed to be. So try, if you try to save a little bit of money up front, it's going to cost you more in the long run. So go ahead, get the extra 5-foot track extension, and it does not come, the track extensions do not come with the legs. So whichever legs, if you have the tall legs or the short legs, make sure that you have the proper track extension, or the legs for the proper legs for the track extension. You know what I'm trying to say. All right, let's talk about build quality a little bit. Putting the kit together, putting the sawmill together, it wasn't very hard. I did a video on when we put it together, and you can go back. I'll leave a link at the end of this video for the assembly video. But the build quality is really good. It's got powder coated, the yellow portions are powder coated. They seem to be doing very well. You're gonna scuff them, there's no way around it. Everything goes together well. The little plastic cover here, this is the OS23 has a metal cover. This is plastic, it's a little easier to work with, makes it a little bit lighter, and you have the ability, if you're gonna have this like near your home and the shop and you've got like a level surface to roll it on, you can actually put this sawmill on the tracks in your driveway, and then roll the sawmill up to the track, set it on there. One man can do that. So it has these, it's kind of like moving a washer or dryer around. It's kind of like that size weight. So it has the wheels built on it, and so that's a big plus, I think, for certain people. For us, it doesn't matter. Ours is set up in the woods. The tires, first off, we're not just going to drag it around. We're just going to come get it with a tractor and bring it somewhere else if we need to. So I don't think that's a big feature for us, but if you're doing it in a more of an urban environment and you have access to pretty level ground, I think the wheel kit is worth the buy as well. I'll say the next most popular question is about the engine, and it's kind of a combination, is how's the engine run and does it have enough power? Well, this is a little 7 horsepower, I think it's called Lifton is how you pronounce it. Lifton's got a good history. They were tied in with Yamaha back in the day. I don't know if they still have any connections at all, but I know that they are. It's a good engine, and is 7 horsepower enough for what this sawmill does? Yes and yes. This sawmill generally pulls on the first, pull starts on the first pull. The horsepower, the biggest diameter log you can cut is 18 inches. Obviously, when you're at the peak size log and the hard species like say hickory, you have to slow down and listen to your engine and keep your RPMs up. As long as you keep your RPMs up, the saw saws very well. If you try to push it through and you're trying to make this a production sawmill, then you're going to end up burning blades up and probably wearing stuff out. So keep your RPMs up, and it's just a pleasure to push through. On this particular log here, this is roughly, I don't have to be roughly, I'll just tell you, it's about a 9-inch red oak log. It's 7 foot long, and I think you'll see that it'll go through this just fine. All we're going to do is make this thing probably a 6x6 or 5.5 by 5.5, and that's going to be our mailbox post. So let me put this log on the sawmill, and we'll go ahead and get the sawmill running. And then what I'll do is, as I remember things across as I work, I'll chime in. So the log dogs work really good. So I really like the log dogs, the way they just fold down in the back out of the way. What we're going to do is make us a couple of cuts, and we will come back and show you them a little bit better. So this is not our first log today, so the engine's already warmed up. But like I said earlier, it is I always throw the choke. It likes to choke, but it generally starts on the first go. Especially when you turn the emergency off kill switch back to the on position. Or it could be out of gas. So I just put gas in the sawmill, and that brings me to another question is, how does it do on fuel? And the answer to that question is it does really good. I have people ask me, like, how long does it last? Well, you can't really say. Anybody that says that they can answer that question has really never done it before, because each size log, each species of log is different, times and harder for the engine to go through. So it totally depends on what you're cutting. For us, we've been cutting oak, which is probably a worst case scenario for the sawmill. And I would say we're probably getting 7 to 10 logs through, depending on what size. And that's cutting all the way through, cutting them up into boards. We've been doing a lot of 1x. So that gives you an idea. That's a lot of sawing, where this is like going to be a 5.5 by 5.5 inches, and it's not going to be that big a deal. So just give you a reference there. Probably 10 logs if you're cutting in 1x, and I'd say we've been cutting 10 to 12 inch logs. So that gives you an idea. I'm happy with it. I don't feel like I have to go put fuel in it often enough that it bothers me or is some sort of trigger that makes me go, hey, this thing's burning too much fuel. See, we are 7 inches off of the deck. I'm gonna take another 1/2 inch off of this side. I will say that there's another thing that I like about this. My OS23, when you start taking a 23-inch log, it is, they're hard to work with. They're heavy. And this is a manual mill. So that's something to keep in mind when you buy a sawmill. This one, because the logs are not that big around, it's pretty easy to work with. Yeah, there's a lot of times I don't even use the cant hook because the logs are manageable. All right, I'm going to take just a little bit more off that. This is a really small log to try to get a 5.5 by 5.5 out. It's a nice veneer. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take one more pass on this. I'm gonna try to get an actual square cant, 5.5 by 5.5. I may not get it. Oh yeah, I'll get it. I got plenty. All right, I dropped it down there. I know I'm gonna get it. That's gonna get me. All right, my blade is a little dull. I'm starting to get some really fine sawdust. So this is going to be my last log for this particular blade. So this brings me up to my next question is, and this is probably the number one asked question I get. So I should have answered this first, but you know, I just now thought of it. How long do the blades last? Well, there is no way for any sawyer to tell you how long blades are going to last. That again on my OS23, we've had that for I guess going on 3 years now, and that's still my number one question about people that are going to buy it. They want to know how long the blades are going to last. It totally depends upon the operator. So if you get a, let's see, if you get a, come into my office. So if you get a sawmill and you are in a rush and you're just trying to bury the saw blade all the time, you're pushing as hard as it'll go, pushing the engine as hard as it go, you're going to dull the blades a lot faster. If you let the blade take its cut as it can take it, your blades are going to last longer. Again, if you run into a nail, we broke a tooth off of a blade, probably our second or third log in. It hit a nail and it broke a tooth, ruined the blade. And that happens to any sawmill, any brand. The other thing is, it's what kind of species of wood. So there's so many factors of how long a blade's going to last. There's no possible way to answer that. All I will say is this: is you can really affect how your blade's going to last by how you treat the blades. If you like keep going when your blade gets dull, if you keep going, you're going to heat stress the blade and you won't be able to sharpen it 5 or 6 times. I have some blades that have 5, 6, 7 sharpenings on them, and that's because as soon as I start feeling the blade slowing down, or I start seeing small sawdust, like really fine sawdust, I stop using that blade and change out, and that makes my blades last a lot longer. So you can get, you know, 5 or 6 cuts out of, you know, sharpenings out of one blade if you are gentle like that. But if you just go through it and, you know, just wide open all the time, pushing as hard as you can, and keep going on a dull blade, your blades are not going to last. And these blades are not cheap, so you definitely want to know where your wood comes from so you don't have nails. And then the second thing there is you can affect how long the blade lasts based upon how you treat the blade. All right, now because we've got a straight flat edge on the back, we won't need any backstops at all. We can just drop the log dogs down, and then we'll drop the backstops down. And then there's probably a I guess about 3/4 inch backstop built into this unit. Now we'll go ahead and put the log dogs back on. So I don't want to waste my blade. These blades are already dull. On this particular one, I'm going to go ahead and make my cant 5.5 inches. I'm just going to take the cut and go. All of it. So I'm not going to try to save any. It's just not worth it for this small of a log. All right, we're just going to go take our red mark, which is the red mark on the sawmill. The way we've got it set up is our height to deck. We're just going to go ahead and drop it all the way down to 5.5 inches. And I'll take me a quick look and see what it looks like. I don't think there's going to be an extra board in there. No, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. Plus this blade is dull. Once this log is done, I'm going to change the blade. I think I got water in my gas. All right, I just went ahead and set this to 5.5 inches. I'm going to take a look down through here, make sure there's nothing in the way. I could get a thin board out of that, but I'm not going to worry about it, so I'm just going to take the 5.5 inches. The blade's dull. I don't want to cut a whole bunch on this particular blade, and then I'm going to change the blade out as soon as we get through with this. We're going to take this down. Pull it back, flip it over, take our next 5.5 inch cut. Can't talk and walk. There we go. Let's get this last piece off of here. It's a good looking mailbox post. So that is a really good looking post for a mailbox. You know, red oak is not ideal, but because we're going to use Fast 2K, if you're not familiar with Fast 2K, it's a foam concrete alternative. You put it in the ground and it expands out into the ground and pushes out, holds it. It's really, really strong. And it also waterproofs the wood and keeps oxygen from it. So if you don't have oxygen in water, it's not going to rot. So you can make this red oak. It's probably going to last us the rest of our life, just to be honest. Unless somebody runs into it, which people are known to do. But anyway, yeah. Good looking post. Time to change the blade.